Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. We're doing another old farts watching anime, and because we've been watching a lot of recent or modern stuff recently, I thought let's go back. Let's go way back to what is basically the very first piece of anime, Astroboy. Now, this is technically not the very first one, but it's certainly the most popular one, the first like well-known bit of anime that everybody talks about. And I've never seen it. It sort of predates me, and I would think, okay, well, I should really check out a bit of anime history. So, in addition to the actual cartoon or anime that made it onto US television as well, there was an Astro Boy video game made for the GBA. I mean, there's others as well, but I really recommend this one. I've been playing it a lot recently, and I thought, yeah, let's watch Astro Boy, the actual anime. I've never seen it. So let's give it a whirl.
The months flew by. Exactly 1 year.
This is anime, right? Ah, it is.
Astroboy would feed me, I'd be all right. But it's too late for that now. Wait, I have an idea. We can share my power. 12 volts. That's enough for us all. I'll just connect my power cord to your pocket and we'll it on my head. I feel a trifle silly. My shivers.
That was Astro Boy. Interesting. 1963, 64, something like that. Very unusual. I mean, not unusual if you know anime, but I imagine in the 60s, when I don't know exactly how the story of Astro Boy coming to the West happened. I don't know what it was that somebody... I saw the NBC logo, the 60 NBC logo in the end credits there. So somebody there went to Japan and said, hey, we'd like to do this cartoon Western style, and clearly that was what ended up happening. Because we've had decades now of anime in our culture, a lot of the stuff that's in there is kind of, oh yeah, it's run-of-the-mill, average, standard fare, but I think for maybe a Western audience in that time, it must have been a really odd sell, and luckily it was very successful. What I mean by that is like, okay, so on the one hand, it's very Pinocchio, and he can fly, and he never gets old, so I guess a little bit of Peter Pan as well in there. But that opening part where, spoilers, the flesh and blood kid that the designer, the builder of Astro Boy bases the robot on, dies in a car accident, was quite surprising for, again, not for anime, not for what we've become used to, but if you were an executive at NBC and you're watching this kid's cartoon and you're seeing a very morose beginning to the series, it must have been an unusual change or an unusual thing to try to suggest, hey, let's carry this show in the West. But it works. Now, it's kind of interesting watching something this old. I was getting a vibe of like Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny cartoons of the era. And I don't just mean like the fact that it's black and white. I mean more like there's a lot of static scenes and a lot of scenes of characters being kind of just reacting with very basic backgrounds and just reacting for longer than modern cartoons do. I can't really think of a good way to explain that, but it's, you know, the sort of slapstick almost. There's a lot of slapstick in this, and it feels very Bugs Bunny-ish, so that's fine. I even commented actually while I was watching, some of the animation in certain parts was really clunky and kludgy, and I thought, this is, considering it's the 60s, I mean the 20s and 30s you could sort of forgive some of the animation direction, but in this one there were lots of sections in the early part and then later on as well where it was very, not very animated. However, I will totally say, in the intervening parts, Very good animation. Very, very appealing to watch. The kind of stuff that I would have expected most of the show to be. Like, the opening credits are very dynamic and exciting, and I thought, oh, that's sort of the kind of thing we're going to see throughout. There were large sections that weren't very well animated. Conversely, though, as a big positive, I kept thinking to myself, is this a 45-minute long show with commercials cut out? Because I was thinking there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of story in it, especially compared to some of the other stuff we've watched recently. Like, I think Heavy Object was kind of just setting up the characters, and then we'll get back to fleshing out the story later. Or Blazing Lasers, at least they set up the world, but the Yamato, which is a major part of Blazing Lasers, is only briefly seen at the end of the episode, because you know you're going to come back for more. With Astro Boy, it's almost a complete encapsulated story, and I remember thinking, like, wow, he's still got a lot going on, and I thought, I think I stopped it at one point just to see, how long is this episode? 23 minutes out of 26. Oh, okay, so they're just really lengthy episodes then. So that was very, very nice. What else can I say? A couple of funny bits in there, and it is charming. It is definitely, for a cartoon of its era, it has Disney/Warner Brothers type appeal, but with that strange twist of kind of, this isn't really for kids so much. It is, but like the kid dying at the beginning of the story and his father wanting to get rid of him when he's a robot form is kind of grim. And even the circus owner, there's some grim elements in here for what is a very darling Mickey Mouse, Mighty Mouse kind of looking cartoon. Anyway, that's enough of me blathering. What did you think, Dee?
Well, I can see in that era them actually doing, killing the son in the beginning, because Disney didn't shy away from that sort of thing in the beginning, like Bambi's mother dying.
That's true.
That sort of thing.
Old Yeller getting shot.
Yeah, so I can see them doing that. But I did have problems, with this episode. The fact that, the father who built him, and had been, with him for, sounded like quite a few years, all of a sudden had a problem with him, and it was like, oh, you're not a real boy. I had a problem with that.
That was very inconsistent. It's like, dude, you built this machine, so why are you getting mad that it's... Like, he even has a ruler, and he's, like, jamming the ruler, saying, why aren't you growing? I was like,
because he's a robot.
Yeah, you built him out of metal. Like, and at one point, the circus trainer gets kind of mad at him, and he tries to punch him, and he hurts his hand. It's like, it's a robot boy. Of course he's not going to grow. Now, I could maybe explain, or I could make an excuse for it, because as part of the same dialogue, the dad does say something like, you've grown in intellect all this time. I did find it weird that they were training, or that a robot has a math teacher. Thought that was a little weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, you've grown intellectually, why haven't you grown physically? It's like, 'cause it's a robot made of metal, man. What did you think was...
Yeah, and I mean, the whole, selling him off... Like, I could have believed the story if, say, he had passed away.
Yeah.
And an Astro Boy was at loose ends, that sort of thing. But the fact that he got all upset because, oh, you're not growing, well, then maybe you should have, developed the robot like a child would, develop.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, I had problems with that. I also had problems with the whole robots fighting robots, because it the way it came over when we started watching the show is that Astro Boy was one of a kind. There weren't other robots. That's how it came over to me.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise to find out that somebody from a circus is actually pitting robot against robot.
And it's a nasty, like, big Taurus the bull with the horns type of a robot that he's fighting. It's not some other little cutesy robot like he goes and recharges with power cables up the bum. It was kind of interesting. It was, again, another weird...
Yeah.
Like, and that's another thing. Like, in anime, now that we understand it, there are some weirdly kind of... Not risque. I mean, by today's standards, very tame stuff.
Absolutely.
But in the 60s, sticking a plug up a robot's bum would have been... I don't know. Would have been an interesting kind of a sell for the people making the show. I'm not sure. Anyway, did you like it though? It
was okay. I might want to try the more modern versions of Astro Boy.
Yeah, Astro Boy's gone through a lot of regeneration, not just like as a robot, but actually there have been, I think, 2 or 3 relaunches throughout the decades. So it was hard to find this black and white episode. Oh, there's the thing. What did you think about watching anime in black and white? Because that felt weird. I mean, sure, in a Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse kind of a way, what's the big deal? You're watching cartoons in black and white. But anime in black and white.
No, I used to watch Mighty Mouse in black and white. Remember when Mighty Mouse used to be in black and white?
Yeah, I guess that's true. It is. And again, that's the thing. Like, as cartoons go, sure, black and white is totally fine, no big deal. But I'm used to anime being its own separate entity and something not part of the early Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny era. So to see something that is that old, I found it fascinating. And I would watch more, time permitting. But a very different kind of a show. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well, that's enough about Astro Boy. Again, check out the Game Boy game if you can. It's awesome. And I'm sure there are other Astro Boy games as well, but that's the one that I've played, and I really, really like it. So that's it for me, and then I guess we'll see you down the rabbit hole.
See you next time.